Okay, so I have taken the time during the little break to put some more rubber cement on top of my tree area. I just brushed it like it was growing away, just pretending like there might have been foliage on the tree itself. I put some over here as well because I want this to stay very light. I want the color that I put there to stay there because I'm about to get really dark here. I also put some of it between the rows because I really want to work on deepening in my sketch. You can see that I have these little troughs, if you will, where the seeds are planted, and I wanted to make sure that where I'm going to put the dark is not going to get into my light areas. So, having said that, I have got my mixed up. I've got all the 4 colors on here. Some of it's already mixed up. I've got some sienna here. I'm going to put a little bit more yellow into that. Then I've got that dark color I used on the tree. But this time I think what I want to do is put a lot more sienna into it and some yellow into that for my ground. So it's a little different than my tree color. And I'm using my half-inch flat brush. Kind of going on an angle here. It is dirt, so I kind of want it to be spilling out and roughed up a little bit, like I did in my sketch. I think that's what's nice about having a sketch, is you kind of got a plan. You could be working from a photograph and try to emulate it, but you want to change it up a bit, since you don't want to have to contact that artist or that photographer and try to figure out how you can rightfully use it and then be able to show it. So I always come up with my own idea. I'm just really deepening these rows now. See where it's hitting that little piece of mascoid that I preserved from the very beginning. Remember, that's what I wanted to keep the whitest of white. So you're really seeing that now. I love the flat brush and what I can do with it. Now I want it to get a little cold, so I'm going to put some blue and purple together. Whoops, I stuck it in the green by accident. You can just take your napkin, wipe all that out, and start over. That happens to me all the time. So there's my blue. Here's my red. Oh, I might as well just mix it right in there, huh? Needs a little more red on there. Especially right in here. There's going to be a shadow from the tree, so I want to put a shadow in there. It's just a layering. We're just layering away. gonna be fun when we pull off all the masking. I've already rubbed off one area there. This bush is really weird. You know, I'm obviously covering up a lot of what I did originally with the saran wrap. That's okay. I changed my mind. I really want this to go a little bit darker. And I think I want this to be a tad darker here. Trying to emphasize that 1-point perspective, so. Okay, so now I'm ready to do a little bit of wash right over the rubber cement area. So I'm going to take my flat brush, and I think this one's mostly going to be like a yellowy red, orange, like dirt. You can see the resist already happening in there. I'm drawing with the other end of the brush. Some scraggly little weeds left over from the fall harvest, especially here in the front. Just dipping it right into my, you could use a toothpick too, you don't have to use the end of this brush. This brush has a real point on it, an aquarelle as it's called. It's not going to work if the painting is dry. Very impressionistic, isn't it? It's not a realist painting, in my opinion. Might be a little too. I'm going to do this same technique over here in this bush. Just using the end of my brush, you could use that toothpick idea. Don't do this if it's really, really wet. You'll scar your paper. One of those briar patch type brushes. Now I can scrape really hard, and I'm getting some little white areas. There we go. So we're just adding little bits of brush to the painting. It's hitting some of the rubber cement under there. That's how you can do weeds, hair. It's a little too... add a few of those to my twigs out here. Different color, because before I was using that teal, so this time I'm using a little umber, the sienna. Okay, so I'm going to let this dry. Okay. Ta-da! Okay. Okay, so I'm back. I let this dry a little bit, and now I've mixed up some of my new gamboge in just water in a separate little pouring cup. And I'm just going to pick out some of the excess of the watercolor. Put that back in my tray over there. Alright, I'm going to start with this lighter color here, and I am going to pour it and then be able to use this tray to move my artwork around. Okay, so it's already got new masking. So it should just settle where I want it to have a little bit of brightness. And it's just dripping right into the tray. And then I can take that and pour the rest of that back into the little cup and use it again. And I can dot at it, spray at it. Okay. that down. Get that up in the sky where I want it. All right, now I'm going to take a little of the red that I have in a cup, just pure red with the water, and see what happens. So it's already going to mix right over that blue and give me some of that purple that I'm wanting. And I'll put it over the green because green and red are opposites. I know I don't want it pooling right there. So I can take what's left in my tray, see, like that, and I'm going to pour it back into one of the bowls. And reuse it again. This is just one of those, I think these are one of those hospital type trays. It's just got a lip. You could use a cookie sheet pen. Putting it along those edges, right over that black blob that I really wanted to be darker anyway. Right, like the shadow around that tree. Just going to absorb some of the big blobs. So we're actually pouring acrylic paint. I call this pouring instead of washing it with my brush. That's the more abstract part of this lesson that I wanted you to get familiar with. Not try to be so realistic with your work, but enjoy the movement and flow of water when you work. Now, I'm going to let this dry, and I might come back and do a little blue. I'm going to let it dry, and then I'm going to rub a little bit more masking off and mask some of my warmer tones and put a cool tone back in. And then I think it'll be, well, I hope it'll be exactly what I'm looking for. Okay, I'll be back. Okay, so I have been letting this dry, and now I'm rubbing off all of the masking to date that I have on here, and what's revealed is definitely the whitest and brightest that I wanted. If I compare it to my original sketch, you can see that I had those little glare marks where there was the glistening of water and dew on top of my early morning or late afternoon, whatever I want it to be. There's just water pooled there. So I wanted to keep that white. And I also wanted some of this whiteness behind the tree so that the tree would be in stark contrast. You can see that there was masking underneath where I came back at about layer 3 or 4 to put the tree in. So at this time I can go ahead and put the leader lines and straight lines in to connect these two to make it one limb. But before I do that, I would like to do one more pour on this. I really think I'd like to add one more layer into this painting. I know it's a lot of layers, but I'm really happy with the way this is coming out, especially when I'm working just from a black and white. And I had done a color study before I started, so I knew what 4 colors I wanted, and the fact that those 4 would make 8 colors. Okay, So I'm going to go ahead and mix up some blue and we'll put it in there. Okay, so I've mixed up just some blue paint that is just blue, the phthalo blue with some water, clear water. Don't use your dirty water coming out of your cup. And I've got some more rubber cement, and I'm getting down to the bottom of my rubber cement. So I'm just going to use an old paintbrush and try to dig as much of it out of there as I can. What I'm doing now is just putting it over the areas like of the orange or the bright white that I still want to keep white. I think I'll put some there. I definitely don't want any blue right in here at all, so I'm putting some right there. I do not want it there. In fact, I wish I had at the beginning kept that really white. So I may have to do a little trick at the end and add a little titanium white, because I blocked through that. And sometimes you just have to do that. I think I want to keep this to pretty light, so I don't want anything there. And I'm looking back at my sketch again, and I don't think I'm gonna want anything here either. So I'm gonna put some glue down here and do like a thin line of it right there. So what it's going to do is keep that lighter green preserved under there before I add the blue. It's all about layers. You know, week one we were layering just with the color and washing it on. Now we're adding the mascoid as a layering technique to preserve some of our colors while we're adding additional pure or mixed up 2 or 3 colors in a pour. I think I really want to preserve that. I'm really liking this whole field back here that I don't think I want it to be blue. Okay, I think that should be good. So this is just a yucky old brush that was losing hair. Actually, don't use one that was losing hair or you'll get those, might get stuck to your... Okay, so I'm going to put that aside and close this up because it is smelly, not good for you. And I'm going to let this dry for just, I don't know, rubber cement doesn't take as long as the mascoid, so it'll be just a few minutes. And then I'm going to put it back into my pouring tray, which is this little blue tray that I have, but you could have used a cookie sheet, something, some kind of like a tinfoil metal pan or something that you could put it in. And then I'm going to use this to pour. Okay? Alright, so my masking that I put down in some key places where before I pour the blue is now dry. And I'm going to pour my blue. This is the phthalo blue with just water. So I'm going to pour it on here. Just using a spray bottle. You can use one of those tiny little ones. And I'm going to kind of dab it away from there. take what's left of it, put it back into the little bowl. This is just another abstract way of working on your art, not traditional with the brush. But a lot of the things I do are not very traditional, so. Remember, I've got masking under there, so it's not going to take in some of the spots. Okay, so I'm going to let that dry, peel up what's left, and then I'm going to add some really dark in the sepia, the brown sienna, and the blue, which is going to make like a sepia color that I can then make a contrast between my whitest and my darkest. So I'll let this dry. Alright, so I took a little hair dryer and just made sure it was all dry before I do this last step. And I am now going to take my rigger and fill back in some of the tree limbs that I might have lost. This makes just makes it come back to life, and we can always use a toothbrush or some other things if you want to add a little more texture to it. Okay, I do still have some masking there I need to rub off. Make sure your fingers are clean when you're doing this too. Otherwise, you're just going to rub onto the white area. Oh, it's so fun to rub this off. I haven't been showing this throughout the video because I didn't think you'd want to sit there and watch me rub. Just reveals how it protected. Like there was a blue dot sitting there, but because it was sitting on top of mascoid, it protected it. Okay, so I'm going to rub the rest of this on and then I'm going to paint those trees. Alrighty, it's time to add those last details in there. And I made myself up some of the sienna with a little bit of brown. And I'm just going to come back and refer to my original sketch. And put some of that really contrasting dark in there. I got one little light spot. I definitely want to keep that because I like having a bright light against a really dark. some at the base of these trees in the far distance. I'm using my rigger right now. It'll hold a lot more paint. See how I've gotten that atmospheric blue under there, and now I can put some of the twigs that are in the far front of the tree coming forward. They're always going to be bolder. All about layers. This segment is all about light, trying to get things a little bit brighter and lighter. You don't have to complete every line. I think it's fun to have implied lines. I have my leading line in here. We kind of talked about that in our graphite lesson. It's kind of nice to have a leader. The leader could be coming from over here. Oh, let's see if I can't use this. Could be telephone poles back here. Could be other dead trees. put a little more red into the shadow. Putting in little details as if they were tractor marks. And voila. Do a little bit darker. You can see I'm not even using my rigger anymore. Using the 6 brush, and I'm gonna go back to this part. Okay, I think that is a wrap on that. And I will sign it. Voila! Alright, let's pull the tape. It's a little process, but it's so worth it in the end. I could take this, treat my fabric with this. I mean, I could take a screenshot of it and make lots of interesting fabric like that. Voila! There it is. So hopefully you have lots of lights and darks in your beautiful landscape. And we took a black and white and made it into something a little bit more interesting and colorful. So enjoy, have fun making it, and I will see you back. Bye.